Yo, 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 and welcome to the show. This is Scorpion's Tail Radio, covering the comic book invasion into the mainstream. We are broadcasting tonight from the website of the same name, and also via psn-radio.com. Lead-in song tonight was Never Know, as performed by 10-Year Vamp. Make sure to check out their website at 10yearvamp.com. 10-Year Vamp also provides a lot of the music to my favorite new web series, Super Knocked Up. Tonight, my co-host Brad and I had actually planned on doing a kind of a web series extravaganza covering some of our favorite series that we've been watching over the past couple of weeks. But we figured we'd do you one better, and instead of just talking about the series, we'd actually bring on the creator of our favorite web series right now, Super Knocked Up. Let me give you a quick introduction to the premise of this web series here. The setup is, Jessica James is the most kick-ass supervillain on the planet, but she just got knocked up by Michael Masters, a womanizing superhero. Find out what happens in the upcoming web series and graphic novel Super Knocked Up. We're going to take a quick little break while I get the creator of the series online for the interview. Everyone please stick with us and we will be right back. Yo, 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 and welcome back to the show. We are joined on the line by the creator of the web series Super Knocked Up, Jeff Burns. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Alright, now before we jump into the series, from what I understand, you've pretty much funded the entire thing yourself. You know, this entire web series, this whole comic book, all about, you know, superheroes and a superhero one-night stand and the consequences of it. I have to imagine someone who spends so much time and puts so much money and energy into something like that is a fan of that kind of material themselves. Do you have a kind of superhero origin story? Can you kind of tell us what heroes and comic books and other cool geeky things you grew up on?
Sure. Yeah, you're totally right. I am a very big fan of that kind of stuff, and I think I've been ever since I was a kid. As a kid, for sure, Spider-Man was my favorite hero and the comic book I read the most. And at that time, I think there was 4 Spider-Man titles out, and I read every one of them. And as a Spider-Man and X-Men, I think growing up were probably my biggest ones that I read. So, you know, yeah, any kind of geeky, superhero stuff. I mean, obviously, and it shows too, you know, obviously Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one of my favorites, and Star Wars are my favorite films of all time, and Star Trek and the Tide. So, you know, I've always been a huge fan of sci-fi and fantasy and superhero stuff and all that kind of awesome stuff.
Nice. That's awesome. Alright, so before we, one thing I really want to go over is the difference here between the web series and the comic book, as far as the story and the canon. How do the two relate to each other? You know, I read in the comic it says, based on the web series, or inspired by the web series. But the comic seems to function as a prequel to the web series, and then they kind of catch up to each other. Exactly what's their relation?
Sure. On the comic, it does say based on the web series, and that's not really totally true. But we put it on there because the web series came out first, and we've been very successful with it. So you know, we're trying to use that as a little buzz. And by the way, I'll just mention in case you know people listening to your show have not seen the series yet. It's about a female supervillain who gets knocked up by a superhero and has to raise the baby with her nemesis. It's a lot of fun, and I actually originally wrote this as a feature-length script, as a movie. That's the original incarnation of this story, and the idea was to maybe try to sell it, you know, maybe get some Hollywood company or something to option it or buy it and turn it into a big-budget movie. And then I decided I was going to do it myself because I'm a filmmaker, and I realized that I felt I could do this on my own with people I knew at a very high level. So the web series and the comic book, actually, I originally planned to do the comic book first and then the web series, but they both pretty much started at the same time in terms of starting to work on it. So for the past year, I was really working on both, over time, and the web series debuted first, and, you know, the comic book just debuted a couple weeks ago, actually. That's very recent. But, so they're both very close to each other, and I kind of wanted it timed out that way, more or less. So they both actually come from the feature film idea. And the reason you're seeing more in the comic book is because that's in the feature script, where there was like some huge, kind of like really big action, super powered scenes that I felt might be a little too crazy for season 1 in the web series, a little too ambitious to try to do and pull off. So I left those out of the web series, and but it was great to have the comic book because I could put that all in there and put the full story that I had envisioned from the start.
So how will they line up going forward? Will the comic book continue to kind of parallel the web series, or will they spring off in different directions? That's
a good question. Initially, that was my plan, and then the web series isn't going. I think the comic book will always have more in it than the web series will, which I think makes sense because if people watch the web series, I want to give them a reason to buy the comic, and not just that it's going to be exactly what they've already seen. And the people who have seen the series and read the comic book so far, they seem to really appreciate that there is all that extra kind of prequel backstory leading up to it, and in it, they found out more information. And that's something we actually may very well do more of too. I may do even a kind of a separate comic thing as well, where it's even going further back, origin story stuff to the characters. So I would say, I guess some of the comic absolutely will parallel the series, and hopefully some of it though will be like new material that you're seeing.
All right, awesome. Let's get into the series a little bit now. I haven't, like you said, I haven't really described it too much for the listeners yet. We've mentioned it a couple of times over the past week, but we haven't gone into too much detail. My review of the web series is available on comicbook.com, but this is the radio show, not the website, so I want to talk about the show a little bit here. This is a really high quality show, I've got to say. I mean, not just, how much I enjoy it, but I guess when people talk about production values, it's real crisp looking, good visuals, good sound, especially if you watch it through superknockedup.com and through Coldcast. I find the quality is especially good on there compared to, I guess, you do also have it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, it's on Blip TV. Those are the main places, but you're totally right. Thank you for mentioning it. I agree that Coldcast TV is where it by far looks the best.
And Coldcast TV is still completely free to watch.
Yeah, totally right. It's totally free. Basically, all you have to watch is a 15-second commercial at the beginning, and then you can watch the rest of the episodes commercial free. And if you go to superknockedup.com, our website, as you mentioned, you can watch all the episodes through Coldcast right there on the homepage. And thank you very much, by the way, for the awesome review that you wrote.
Oh yeah, of course, and I will have a review coming on the comic book on the site too. Absolutely. And describing the series a little more again, I love how it kind of embraces the kind of goofy and raunchy premise that you described in there. There's comedy, there's sexuality, but it doesn't really overindulge in either one of them. There's still a real genuine story in it.
Absolutely. I mean, I always really wanted this. I mean, it would have been very easy to make this over the top or campy, and that's not what I wanted to do. So it is. We tried to make it very grounded. That this supervillain and this hero who can't stand each other, and they're forced into this very awkward and horrible situation, and they have something, they have to make it work. But they're real people. You can relate to them. You can empathize with them, and they happen to have superpowers at the same time, which is awesome. And we do have fun with that whole thing, like you mentioned. But I think what's really cool is that these are very believable, real people. And then you also have the really fun superhero part of it and a lot of comedy as well.
And you do balance those really well. The balance between the comic book of it and the superheroes and, the villainous plots. Balancing that with the emotional drama. I almost can't help compare it to Smallville in some ways, especially with the later seasons with the Lois and Clark tension, how they could have those tender moments versus, the quips and the punches and the way they can, have that kind of like innocent, hopeful look in their eyes for each other to like a snap, and they've got that distaste in that. I can't stand you.
Well, thank you. That's probably one of the greatest compliments you could have given me, because that Smallville is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I watched the last 10 years. So from day one I was a fan of that. So thank you. And I love the whole Lois. Lois.
Yeah, yes, I know you're a Smallville fan if you're talking like that.
The Lois and Clark relationship, yeah, and Tom Welling and Erica Durance were great.
We're all big fans here of Smallville on Scorpion's Tail Radio. Have you been reading that comic, by the way?
Oh yeah, what is it? What was it, like the continuation of Smallville after the last season, right?
Yeah, it's basically season 11. They got Brian Q. Miller to write it.
Yeah,
the show.
I haven't checked it out. Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's great, man. It reads by really, really fast. Like, it's kind of short. But Brian Q. Miller was always one of my favorite writers on Smallville, and he's done a great job of kind of, capturing the voice of the characters and, making this really feel like it's, like this is Smallville, but it's also Smallville as kind of a Superman tale now.
Nice.
I'm actually enjoying it more than I am, like most of the Superman books in the New 52 right now, and one of the nice things about it is it's available digitally. So you can buy it through like Comixology.com, and it's only like $1 an issue.
Yeah, I saw it there for 99 cents. All right, I'm definitely going to have to get it.
You're distributing your comic book digitally too, right?
I am, yeah. Right now, you can get it at the same site, superknockedup.com. If you go to the comic book page, you can get our comic right now, either in PDF or CBR format for $1.99. And it's a little longer than a typical comic book. And there's also, on its way right now is the print version of the comic as well. So that will be very shortly available as well.
Do you have any thoughts on kind of the digital revolution in comic books that might be kind of creeping up on us now?
Yeah, it's coming. It's like it's been slower than other things, I think, online and digitally. Like it seems like and I mean, I'm actually one of these people too, that people still really love having that book, the paper in their hand, the physical comic book. And if I have my choice, I do as well. But we're slowly moving over, I think, to digital, and it's probably the way it's gonna at some point. I mean, I think actually virtually almost anything is gonna go that way. I mean, certainly with TV series that go, online on the web and how that's merging now, and books and comic books. So we're definitely heading in that direction. It's going to be a while still for comic books, I think, but it's definitely, I think, growing every day, every month, whatever, in terms of more people being okay and cool with reading it in a digital format. Which is actually, now that I've done one in a digital format, and certain programs there, like that, and certain things like Comixology, like you mentioned, do in terms of how you can read it panel by panel, it's pretty cool, actually. It's still a really good way to read it.
Yeah, I think that really does open up the storytelling. Like, for example, when you're reading it panel by panel, Mark Waid actually had just described this recently. You can be surprised on any panel.
Exactly.
Because you don't have 2 pages in front of you.
Right, which you never can be on a comic book, right? Because and you can't resist, your eye drifting to the end of that page or the next page, which is a great thing about the digital format. You're totally right.
What I really love about what you've done with your digital book, though, is you do have it available as the PDF or the .cbr. One thing I noticed on a lot of these sites is what you kind of do is you make an account with them and you pay to read the book, but your book is generally just kind of stored out there in cyberspace on their website. With Super Knocked Up, you're still downloading a file, and it's something you still physically own something on your computer.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't realize a lot of sites did not do that. So yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're buying something, so you should be able to, you can download it and you can read it whenever you want, which I think, like you would if you bought a physical comic book.
Alright, so now your series kind of starts with a hookup, and I think, still the whole thing of it is a little more heartfelt up than, say, like the Batman, Catwoman kind of vibe. But was there any other superhero, supervillain kind of coupling that inspires you, or some sense of like wish fulfillment in that?
I don't think, unless it was subliminally, which certainly is possible, but intentionally, whatever. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I gotcha.
I don't think I really was thinking of any superhero and supervillain couple that inspired. I just, when I came up with the idea, I just thought, like, holy shit, that's an awesome idea. And I just went with it like gangbusters. I mean, people, if they usually bring up something, they will mention the Batman, Catwoman thing, which I've always really enjoyed. Obviously, that whole sexual tension there. They're kind of, at each villains are kind of working together. He's one of my favorite heroes. You know what? Who I really have always liked, actually staying in the Batman world? I always liked Batman and Talia.
Oh, yes.
I've always been really, I don't know, if anything, I actually have always wanted him kind of to get with her. I think that's always been, for some reason, I think the coolest, I don't think that could happen if he was going to get with, a antagonist. So that's probably been my favorite. I don't really think, though, it actually inspired my Super Knocked Up in terms of the creation of it.
That did have a really cool storyline behind it, too. The way that Roz was kind of testing Batman. Like, was he worthy enough to be with his daughter and to be, like,
Right.
sire of the heir to his throne or something like that.
Right, which I've always loved too. Roz is, I think, a great villain. Right, and the whole fact that it's like, it's like he's kind of thrust Batman on with Talia, and I don't know, it's a great storyline. It's a great character, both great characters, Roz and Talia, and I've always enjoyed any kind of storyline with them.
And you don't get to see a lot of that, because even when that happens, you could say, Magneto and Rogue, maybe Daredevil and Elektra had more time, like Spider-Man and Black Cat. There's always more of a flirtation than there is any actual romance. Of course, I guess we don't know necessarily, well, I mean, because you wrote the thing, but we don't know yet necessarily if that's the direction Super Knocked Up is heading. And, there's a lot of different cliffhangers in it, but I think at the end of the last episode this season, there was kind of a real big emotional cliffhanger as far as where is this relationship going, or even is this a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the core of the whole series, the relationship, or if there's going to be one between Jessica, who's the villain Darkstar, and Michael, who's the hero Captain Amazing. Yes, I do know. I do know where it's going to go and happen. I can't reveal, obviously, that right now exactly, but there's a really cool arc to it. There's a lot of ups and downs, obviously, and some very difficult choices that Jessica's going to have to make. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to bug you for too many spoilers. At least not on air anyway. Maybe once we get off air, I don't know. I might go kind of crazy with. I mean, I'm actually not a huge spoiler hound myself. Are you?
Oh no, I avoid spoilers like the plague. And I'm actually somehow very successful on it, which is surprising with everything online now. But yeah, no, I don't ever want to know what's going to happen in a movie and a show. For me, that's the joy, I think, of watching a great series or movie from people who are very talented storytellers. And the whole fact with, the twists, the reveals, the whole arc that a writer builds into, if they do it right, there's a whole structure and there's all these things that you're not going to expect are going to happen. And when you do see it, you're like, holy shit, and that was awesome. And if I know it's coming, I can't really have that moment. So for me, because I love trying to deliver those moments to the people who are watching my series, and I love experiencing those moments when I watch filmmakers and storytellers that I love.
Yeah, avoiding spoilers is especially hard in my profession. I mean, being an entertainment journalist, having to talk about these things and write about these things. I mean, spoilers are practically my job.
Oh, I bet.
That's what so many people want out of us, and you've got to keep reporting all these things. So it's so hard, but I try, and that's actually one thing I really do admire, especially about Nolan's take with his Batman movies, is how secretive he is in his process.
Oh yeah, Nolan is. I've been saying this for a while now that I think he's the best filmmaker working today, right? And I cannot wait for The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think it's got me more hyped up for it, knowing less. I mean, I don't know how inspired you were by the trailers, but there's still those little things leaking out that kind of make you wonder. It's the end of the franchise. Is a horrible fate going to befall Batman or something else? Because he basically is kind of opening it up to, I'm telling my Batman story my way, and it's the end of it, so anything can happen.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've been talking to that with my friends recently too about is Batman, he's going to kill him? Is he going to die? Which I totally believe Nolan would do. I think the latest trailer got me, I've liked all of them, but it got me the most excited for sure. Just the whole structure of the latest Dark Knight trailer I think is awesome. The way it starts so quiet and nothing's really happening, and it builds to this crescendo at the end. It's just, I think, fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was really unique, too. Getting back into Super Knocked Up, I wanted to ask you a bit about the powers for each character. Was there anything in particular that inspired the power sets you wanted to give them? The invulnerability, strength, the energy power, especially being a fan, was it just a geek out fun thing for you? What went into your creative process?
Yeah, sure. For the main two characters, Darkstar and Captain Amazing, I think I pretty much always knew what I wanted. I'll get more into those in a second. For the other, and you haven't seen hardly any of them in the series, you see a lot more of them in the comic book, and you'll see more of them as we continue on. But there's a whole team of heroes and a team of villains. It actually was a lot of fun. One of the first things I did is I typed out every superpower I could ever think of ever being used, in comic books or films or whatever. And I just made a whole list of all these powers. And, And then I made a whole list of like possible names and all these combinations and stuff. And it was a lot of fun actually to kind of say like, all right, what powers are the coolest? What's this character gonna have, to go through all that. And, for the main characters, I always really wanted him. I mean, he's very much based on Superman's powers. Not the heat vision and a lot of that stuff, but the strength, flying, invulnerability. I really wanted him to, like, he was like the hero of this super knocked up world, the one that everybody loved and like looked up to, right? Actually, this is actually a line from the script. When I introduce him, I say he's like Clark Kent if Clark Kent banged everyone in Metropolis. So he's a womanizing version of Superman in a way, you know? And for Darkstar, the villain, who's actually our main character, for some reason I wanted, she can do energy blasts from her hands, or just create like an energy field around her fists when she hits people, and a shield as well. So, that's, in a way, I guess it's a blend, of like Cyclops and Gambit in a way, Invisible Woman with the shield. And I don't know if I was thinking about these characters when I first thought of that, but that's what I could relate it to. I wanted to give both of the main characters certainly really very powerful, badass powers, that these were kind of the two most kick-ass ones in the super knocked up world.
Yeah, of course, every series needs to have, its alpha male and its big tops as far as, biggest hero, biggest villain. And I'll give you a ton of credit on it too. I really love Darkstar's energy power. It just makes for a really cool special effect. Usually I'm more specific and more professional when I talk about something, but I just love the hell out of it. Like, it's just so cool to me. Can you tell me a bit technical wise? Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Can you tell me a bit technical wise behind how that special effect gets made on the show?
Sure, I'll do as best I can. I wish my visual effects guys can do that a lot better. And the two of them who worked on it are Daniel DeFabio and Chris Vincelette, who did the visual effects. So I think one of the ones you're talking about is in episode 1, which is the very actual first shot of the whole series, where she does her energy blast and she hits a security guard with it. So obviously that's all done in post, and both my visual effects guys use a program called After Effects, which a lot of visual effects people use. And how they use that program to do that, I have absolutely no idea. But, because I've never used it. However, I can tell you in terms of like on the set, how we actually did not use a green screen for any effects. Except the only time we used a green screen was the bonus episodes, which, they're a separate thing kind of. All the actual visual effects were not done on green screen. They're all actually, those are the physical locations. For that energy blast one, so the actual shooting of it, what we did is, Natalie, who's the actress who plays Darkstar, she would throw her hand out, like she's pretending she's doing a blast. And then my stunt coordinator and another guy were below the security, out of frame, below the security guard, and they would yank him back into a bunch of cushions out of frame, right? And then that's all we did. So it's throwing your hand up, yanking somebody out of frame, and then add a blast in post-production. And it looks awesome. And getting the timing all right, of course. For the last episode, if you remember, there's the whole energy shield she does when there's an explosion, of course. That was kind of cool, actually, because I actually, my cinematographer was the same guy doing the visual effects for that episode, and I actually showed him a clip from Fantastic Four where Jessica Alba creates this shield. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but there's the fire engine bridge scene where there's a big explosion and stuff, and she puts up this energy shield to protect her. And I actually used that as a reference. I was like, so this is really awesome. And I know this is a big budget Hollywood film, but if we could do something like that, that would be fucking great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I saw those.
Yeah, so we use that as a reference, and that's actually very interesting too, because, and Natalie did a great job, because that's all reaction to nothing, It's me telling her what's going to happen in the scene, but that's all her pretending she's putting the shield up, and there's all these flames and stuff there, and there's absolutely nothing there besides fans blowing in her face. That's, that we're holding up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then, that's all added in post-production too. So, I will tell you there's a DVD coming out for season 1, and, one of my visual effects guys is going to do a total breakdown of one of those scenes and going to take you through exactly what he did and all that. And it's going to be, I think, an awesome educational thing and really cool visual thing to see him go through all that and showing how he did it.
one right there.
Oh, I hope it does.
Alright, so all this kind of talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff has kind of reminded me that I wanted to ask you, do you like the smell of paint?
I love it, actually. Every time we shoot, we put a fresh coat of paint on the walls because we just love inhaling it.
I kind of meant that as a metaphorical question to it. I'm sorry, I guess the metaphorical question works better if you explain the metaphor behind it.
I thought
first.
It was just a random question, which I like.
But it all kind of goes back to a quote that I had first heard in high school, and I'm paraphrasing it here because I don't really remember my English class that well, but our English teacher had told us the story about a conversation with a writer, and one of these things that came up was this idea that the happiest painters are the ones who enjoy the smell of paint. I guess not necessarily, the ones that, make the most money or have, the nicest final product, but I guess the ones who enjoy doing it. So I guess the question I'm kind of trying to ask you is, when you're doing this, do you kind of have the end in mind as, this story that you want to tell? Or, is a lot of it the stuff that you actually have to do when you make a film? I mean, coaching the actors, editing the scenes, working to get your camera angles just right. Stuff like that.
Well, like I said, since I wrote it as a feature, I know where the story begins and ends and everything in between. Like, I know where I want to go and get to. It is, now that I'm doing it as a web series, it is a matter of what parts of this should I tell in each season? What's the best way to get there, the most dramatic? And like, as you said, each episode I tried it as a cliffhanger, to make people keep watching. In terms of, can you kind of repeat in terms of working with the actors and editing and stuff, what the question was for that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess the thing that I'm kind of trying to say is, I think we've all kind of thought about, stories we want to make. It's like if I was to make a movie, and, everyone and their mother has, a script, quote unquote, right, that they're working on. But, when you look into actually doing these things, I guess I'm just trying to say, it's a lot of goddamn work.
Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, so yes, I can definitely talk about that. It's a tremendous amount of work. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody can really truly understand it unless they've done it and made a film or a web series or something. Yeah, maybe you gotta be a little nuts to do all this work. But like you said, in terms of, I guess, painters who love the smell of paint, I love making films. I love telling stories and sharing them with people and seeing their reactions to it, And I'm more passionate about that than anything. And so I will gladly put in insanely hours of work and, and spend a bunch of money right now, and with obviously the goal of making money down the road. But I will gladly do that because I love it so much, and this is what I want to do. And I surround myself with people who have to share that same goal. But yeah, no, it's, in terms of doing it, I'll be honest with you, when I get, I guess, an idea of a story that I think is awesome and I want to tell, I pretty much just say, I'm doing it. And then I launch myself 100% into doing it, and I usually don't ever second guess myself. In terms of that, there's always doubts, of course, along the way, and there's always going to be things that come up on any film shoot. Any filmmaker can tell you this, that thinks it's going to derail the whole project, but you find a way past it. But yeah, I put a tremendous amount of work in it. I'm confident in where I've grown as a filmmaker, with still knowing I have a lot to learn. I'm confident in my cast and crew. So yeah, I guess, if you really love something that much, you'll put in the work that's required.
Do you have a favorite piece of equipment?
In terms of making film equipment?
Yeah.
Well, we shot with two different Canon DSLR cameras, which are the Canon 7D and the Canon 5D, which are very popular right now with independent filmmakers. And if people don't know, these are actually cameras made for still photography for the most part, but they shoot ridiculously high quality HD video. So a lot of filmmakers are using them to shoot video now, and they're very small and compact. And so I would probably say those, yeah. Those cameras, because without those, it would not look anywhere near the quality it does. And they're affordable enough that like I said, I can actually do it. I don't have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars or something just trying to get a camera or whatever.
I guess they've kind of leveled the playing field in a way, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, it's totally different now with digital video and HD video and film going. I mean, I think what is it? 20th Century Fox, I think a week or two ago, said they were no longer. I think by 2013 or 14, they were no longer going to send film prints anymore. It was going to be all digital releases for their films in terms of getting them to the theaters. So we are absolutely going in terms of we're heading for all digital. In terms of shooting and I think distribution. And yeah, for sure, these kind of cameras, like, I mean, you can get a camera, like these cameras, depending on the different kinds, you can get it from anywhere between like $800 and like $3,400. So, somebody can actually afford that and it looks awesome. And it absolutely has allowed a lot of very talented people to tell the stories they want to tell and share that with people that they wouldn't have been able to tell before. I mean, does it also maybe add a whole bunch of not so great stuff out there? Sure. But that's always, the way it's been. So I think it's fantastic.
Okay, well, I'm going to open up the phone line. So if anyone would like to talk to Jeff, my co-host Brad, or myself, the call-in number is 786-245-8127. We are officially taking calls as of now. Otherwise, Brad, did you want to start off the next round of questions for our guest?
Sure, Scorpio. How you doing, Jeff?
Great, Brad.
One thing that I have read about is filmmaking wasn't actually originally something you planned on going into. I read you actually went to college for, I think it was history.
Yeah, you are correct. Good research. I got my bachelor's degree in history, and then I even got my master's degree in ancient history. And I took all those languages like Latin and Greek, and I even studied hieroglyphics. And which is all awesome, and I love all that stuff. But and I thought I was going to go on to get a PhD and become a history professor. And then I got the filmmaking bug, and it was my senior year in college. My friends and I actually made a film, well, if you can call it that, which was absolutely ridiculous. I think on my bio on the website, I jokingly called that it was a film about evil twins, pimps, and Darth Vader, which is obviously a very Oscar award-winning film right there. But you know what? That kind of did give me the bug to do it, and then I just after school I got an idea for a script, and I was like, I really want to tell this story, and I want to shoot it as a film, and I think that'd be awesome, and I'm going to do it, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Absolutely not. I have no training in filmmaking. Got a couple books but for the most part, I just totally threw myself into it. I made a million mistakes. I finished the film though. And, it was a comedy. People laughed. But looking back, I haven't watched that film in probably a decade or whatever. I don't know. I can't go back and watch it because now from where I am now, it's like, it's very painful. But it's where I needed to start to get to where I am now. And it's a growth. Every film I made, I think I've done a better job than the one before, which is what I always try to do. So yeah, I did not start off thinking that, but I'm very glad that's what I'm doing right now.
Cool. For the aspiring filmmakers out there, it's like, what kind of lessons on your first film did you learn? Like, I mean, is there any specific kind of mistakes that you made, were able to correct? And
well, generally speaking, which I touched on earlier, I'll say to any aspiring filmmaker out there, I actually think, and if you want to go to film school, that's obviously totally fine, and you can learn a tremendous amount. But if you don't, that's fine as well. And I really think by just go and do it, and throw yourself into it, and it's totally fine to make mistakes. That's the way we learn. Try to get good people around you, but if not, just whatever, get other people. You will learn a tremendous amount by making the film. One thing I'll definitely say to people, which I've learned on my first film, and I've learned, in every film after that, this happens, but there are going to be times where horrible things are going to happen. At least it seems that way at the time, that something's going to happen, and you're going to think, oh my God, I can't finish my film, it's ruined. This is the end of the world. And it's not. Okay? It seems that way, but every filmmaker goes through this, and I would say pretty much almost virtually every shoot they do, they go through this, or every project they do. You have to find a way. There's always a way around it, and sometimes you got to get really creative. But there's you got to push through. You got to keep moving forward, you got to believe there's a way around it, and never give up. And that's really the best advice I said. You have to have perseverance and never give up. And, and I think a lot of people say that. I think, you hear a lot of successful actors or filmmakers say that, that they never gave up and they kept going until they made it. But that's why they're successful, because they all share that quality, And so that's the biggest advice I would give, is that actually there's so many films I see that don't get finished, and the people just give up and they're like, oh, I can't do this, and so just find a way, and you got to believe in yourself and believe that you can find a way around it.
Definitely very good advice. Kind of moving on. Obviously, you've mentioned that you've put the show on Coldcast instead of like other, like YouTube or something. Were there benefits or kind of things that led to the decision to put it on Coldcast instead of YouTube as your primary hosting site?
Absolutely. So if people don't know, Coldcast, and it's spelled with a K actually, so it's KOLDCAST.TV. Coldcast TV is, as far as I'm concerned, the best site online for independent web series. And the Super Docked Up's up there, and tons of different series in every genre, in any kind of genres up there, and it's from really, really awesome filmmakers. Here's the thing about Coldcast is that, number one, you have to actually submit to them, and they have to think like, yes, we think your show is of a certain quality and it's going to fit well in our network. Unlike YouTube and Blip and other places, which pretty much anybody can put up whatever they want, no matter of the quality. Coldcast is selective. And anybody can submit though, which they're very open to, and they're awesome people to work with. The greatest advantage of them is that the way they've set up, they've been around for 6 years, the way they've set up, I guess, their network and the marketing and promotion they do is so far above any of these other sites. It's insane. On Coldcast, since it debuted in mid-February, and we've gotten almost 700,000 views just on Coldcast alone, which is amazing. And we wouldn't have gotten those views on other places like YouTube and Blip. So I think really the benefit about Coldcast is how they support the creators that they feature on their sites, and they tailor every marketing and promotion differently for each series. And they really look at like, what's the best for each series? How is the best way to promote this? On these other sites, you're totally on your own pretty much in terms of promoting it, and which I do a ton of on my own in social media, and that's really important. But Coldcast is amazing at this, and they're really creator friendly, and they want you to be able to tell the story you want to tell and support you. So I can't say enough good things about them.
Okay, I actually have a lot of questions I would like to ask about the show, but unfortunately I know you're not going to spoil it for us. One question I would like to ask, I know you won't give too many details about it, but in the series, you have the villain, Dr. Destruction, and you have Darkstar kind of working for him. But during that scene, you kind of see a little bit of it seems like there might be something going on between them. Is there something in store for the future? Do we have is there foreshadowing going on in that scene we should look for?
There is, it's very astute observation. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away. There is something else going on. Yes, it may not be exactly what you think it is. But yes, there's other stuff going on. There's other history involved here that you haven't totally found out about yet, but that I mean, both with him and actually in episode 2, you saw Michael's mom character. And there's foreshadowing there as well with her. So yes, there absolutely is. I can't tell you exactly what it is because it would totally ruin stuff coming up. But yeah, no, you definitely caught on something.
Oh, I think we have a caller. Caller, are you on the line here?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have a question for Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, how you doing? This is Anthony.
Oh, good. Hey, Anthony. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. I just seen a couple episodes, and so far it's pretty cool. And when you think about it, it's kind of like the movie Knocked Up, only except without Seth Rogen, of course. But it's got its humor, and not to mention its realism with its humanity-wise, and which a lot of people can pretty much relate to, and it's pretty darn cool. I mean, the episodes are short, but sweet.
Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. And
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and we should probably maybe we'll get Seth Rogen to guest star in an episode.
Hey, there's an idea. There you go. All right, now one of my questions is there any other superhero comic that you used to read while growing up?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I mentioned Spider-Man and X-Men were like the big ones for me, but I was, you know what? I've always been a Batman fan, but to be honest with you, I never really read a lot of the Batman comics until more recently, like several years ago. I've actually turned, I mean, I guess depending if you're a Marvel DC, we actually read a lot more DC now, and I used to read all Marvel pretty much when I was younger. Although mixed in with Image and stuff, like I read Spawn, I remember when it first came out, and actually one of my favorites now is Witchblade, and like some of the Top Cow stuff. So, yeah, I mean, and you know what, Gen 13, that was a series I liked when it first came out a lot. That was cool. And, yeah, so, you know, yeah, Spider-Man and X-Men were definitely the biggest ones growing up, though. And, I've read a lot of different comics. I mean, yeah, I read like all the Spider-Man titles, all the X-Men titles when I was younger. And I was a teenager and stuff. I definitely read, and I still do a lot of different comics.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And which superhero movie that you're looking forward to the most? I mean, currently.
Definitely the Dark Knight Rises, and that was the one. You know, even I was definitely looking forward to the most this summer. And you know, and I saw Avengers when it came out, and that was amazing and so fucking awesome. And Joss Whedon's the man, and that's
man, indeed.
And yeah, he proved, and he shows. I'm so glad he got to show everybody like why I've loved him for years, and I think he's so amazing. Because he totally knocked it out of the park, I think, with that movie. But like I said earlier in the show, I mean, I think Nolan is just an amazing filmmaker, and The Dark Knight is my favorite superhero movie ever right now, and so I can't wait till what he does with The Dark Knight Rises.
I see. For me, personally, it was Superman that actually got me into the comic books, and I have to say, without the character Superman, I wouldn't have begun to read any of the comic books. So yeah, and so I also like to
the Superman movie got you into the comics?
Yeah, and eventually it drove me to reading the comic books and picking them up, reading and pretty much buying them, and I enjoyed it. And right now, I currently have a year subscription for the Incredible Hulk comics, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
Awesome, by the way. So yeah, I've got the issue Haunted Hulk Part 1, and I'm pretty much waiting for the second issue. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sweet. I mean, you're totally right that the Superman, the first two Superman movies in particular, I think are amazing. And I remember like last year, I rewatched the first Superman, which I hadn't, seen it in many years. And just watching what Christopher Reeve did with the character, I was like, oh my God, he was so good. And that's, and it's just what made that movie. So I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, it was, George Reeves was pretty much, he did pretty good as a character in the TV series, but it was Christopher Reeve that has defined the characters in his persona. And when you hear him just say in the movie, I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. And he just pulled it off so well. I mean, just wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but with all the superhero movies that came before and turned out incredibly great, Superman the movie will always be the father of all superhero movies. Now and forever.
No, you're totally right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, caller, thank you very much for your questions. We appreciate it. We love all of our fans. We're running close to the end of the show here, so I got a final couple quick things that I really just want to get in here. First of all, I couldn't let you off the phone without going through this. On the Q&As for the cast and crew on the Super Knocked Up website, there's a question that was asked about who had the best E.T. impersonation. I just want to know what's the story behind that, and then of course, even if you don't want to tell us, just can you do yours on air?
Well, the answer to that question is not me. I do not do the best. I actually can't even do an ET impersonation. It's actually Natalie, our lead actress, who does it. And it was it was one time on set. She just said, "Oh yeah, I'm really famous for my ET impersonation," and we're like, "What?" Okay, like, all right, you got to do it now. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I can even describe it. It's a very physical performance, not just the vocal thing that does it. But she did it, and we were like on the floor laughing, the whole crew, and it was just hysterical. So it's I don't know, maybe you'll see it sometime. I think we have some video of it actually.
Yeah, that's gotta make it onto the deleted scene somewhere, whether it's the Super Knocked Up website or maybe the upcoming DVD you mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I want to see. Like I said, we're about coming up to the end of time, so could you repeat all the essential links and info for all of our listeners, anyone who's been intrigued by what we've talked about so far? Tell them where they can find all your shows and all your merch.
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much for all the listeners, and to you guys, and to Anthony for the great questions. So yes, if you would like to watch the web series or get the Super Knocked Up comic book, you can go to superknockedup.com. You can watch all season 1 episodes there. There's actually 4 bonus episodes, which we aired in between them, which are really cool, fun interviews with our reporter character and the heroes and villains. You can get issue 1 of the comic book. There's behind the scenes videos, photos. There's a ton of stuff up there. Fun Q&As. So it's all at superknockedup.com. Also, we have a very big social media presence. So if you can go to facebook.com/superknockedup and click the like button, that would be great. And that's actually where I update information all the time. That's the best way to find out what's going on. And you can go to @superknockedup on Twitter or just twitter.com/superknockedup. I'm always tweeting on there. I respond to everyone who sends me tweets or Facebook messages, and or you can email me at superknockedup@yahoo.com. So I think that's all the info. But again, superknockedup.com is the main place to go for all your Super Knocked Up needs.
Awesome. Brad, you want to get the last question in here?
Yes. Can you tell us what your plans are for season 2 and when we might be seeing that?
Sure. We don't have any exact set dates right now, but I'm hoping later this late summer, maybe early fall, to start shooting that. So and there's a little, to be honest with you, just today so you guys are the first ones who are going to hear this actually. And I don't know I don't know, and this is totally tentative, so I'm not sure yet. I had some really cool ideas today of doing some prequel stuff on the web series and looking at Darkstar and Captain Amazing as like teenagers and origin story stuff, which I think could be very exciting and really tie in why these characters are the way they are and what's going on now in the world and how they got there. And I'm not positive that's the way I'm going to go first, or I'm just going to continue the story in the way it is, but I literally just thought I had some really awesome ideas of that today. So one way or the other, you're going to see something awesome, and it's just a matter if we're going to go a little backwards first or totally forward, but you're going to see the full story regardless. I have multiple seasons planned out, so ideally we're going to start shooting in the fall, and then in early, hopefully 2013, you would see them.
All right, there you have it, and this all sounds incredible, by the way. Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and especially for that extra juicy little bit of info at the end there. Thank you to the caller, thank you to everyone for listening tonight, thank you to my new co-host Brad, of course. Once again, superknockedup.com seems to be the main place to go, and you can get just about everything from there. Make sure to join us next week for more comic book news, reviews, humor, and just generally awesome me. Scorpion's Tail Radio coming next week.